The massive research ship Harmony of Stars floated dead in space like a broken toy. Captain Zephyrin pressed his crystal hands against the control panel, watching the power levels drop lower and lower. His whole body was shaking now. The engines had blown out 3 hours ago, and the life support systems were failing fast. Around him, his crew of 20 different alien species worked frantically to fix what couldn't be fixed. The Veil Nebula was a dangerous place, full of radiation storms and space pirates. No one came here unless they had to. And now they were stuck. "Captain, we need help," said his second officer, a tall blue creature named HFY. "If we don't get rescue ships here soon, we'll all be dead by morning." Zephyrin knew she was right. He walked over to the communication station and flipped on the emergency beacon. The bright red light started flashing, sending out a distress signal to anyone who might be listening. "This is Galactic Council vessel Harmony of Stars requesting immediate assistance," he said into the microphone. His voice echoed through the quiet bridge. "We have engine failure and life support is critical. Please respond." For 10 long minutes, there was nothing but static. The crew watched the communication panel hopefully, praying someone would answer. The ship was getting colder. The air was getting thinner. Some of the smaller crew members were already having trouble breathing. Then the radio crackled to life. Harmony of Stars *, this is Terra Fleet responding. Admiral Jake Thompson commanding. Maintain your position and prepare for assistance. The bridge went completely silent. Everyone stared at the radio like it had just grown teeth and started biting people. "Terra Fleet," whispered Engineer Koss, his tentacles curling up in fear. "Did he say Terra Fleet?" "Oh no," breathed Navigator Veltar from her station. "Oh no, oh no, oh no." Terror spread through the crew like wildfire. Every single being in the galaxy knew about humans. They were the monsters from the death world called Earth. Their planet was so dangerous that it tried to kill them every single day. Deadly weather, poisonous creatures, diseases that could wipe out entire cities. And somehow, the humans had not just survived, but conquered their horrible world through pure violence and brutality. The stories about humans were the stuff of nightmares. They fought wars that lasted for decades. They built weapons that could destroy entire planets. When humans got angry, they didn't just defeat their enemies. They completely destroyed them. "They're going to enslave us," Veltar whispered, her voice shaking. "We've all heard the stories. Humans don't rescue people. They capture them." "Maybe we should turn off the beacon," suggested Medical Officer Plix. "Maybe they'll just go away if we don't respond." But it was too late. The sensors started beeping wildly. Something big was coming out of hyperspace. "Multiple contacts," reported Sensor Officer Quinn, his voice barely a whisper. They're huge." The first ship appeared like a dark shadow against the stars. It was massive, bigger than anything the aliens had ever seen. Its black hull was covered in weapon ports and armor plating. Then another ship appeared. Then another. Within minutes, 5 enormous human warships surrounded the helpless Harmony of Stars. The aliens huddled together on the bridge, holding onto each other for comfort. These weren't rescue ships. These were war machines. Dreadnoughts built for destruction. "Look at the size of those guns," whispered HFY. "They could vaporize us in seconds." Captain Zephyrin stared out the main viewscreen at the human fleet. Each ship was dark and menacing, like hungry predators circling wounded prey. The humans had answered their distress call, but not to rescue them. They had come to take them. The radio crackled again. Admiral Thompson's voice was calm and steady. Harmony of Stars *, we're reading critical life support failures on your vessel. We're preparing rescue shuttles now. Hold tight. But the aliens weren't fooled. Everyone knew humans were liars. They would say anything to make their prey feel safe before striking. The crystalline captain closed his eyes and prepared for the worst. Their rescue had just become their doom. The communication system buzzed with Admiral Jake Thompson's voice, clear and professional. Asterisk Harmony of Stars asterisk, this is the UES Defiance. We're launching medical shuttles now. Please prepare casualty reports and have your injured ready for treatment. Captain Zephyrin blinked his crystal eyes in confusion. He looked around at his crew, who were all staring back at him with the same puzzled expression. Where were the demands? Where were the threats? Every alien species in the galaxy knew that when humans showed up, they made demands first and asked questions later. Sir, whispered Navigator Veltar, he's asking about our wounded. Not about surrendering our ship. Maybe it's a trick, suggested Engineer Koss, wrapping his tentacles nervously around his control station. Maybe they want to know how weak we are before they attack. But before anyone could respond, something appeared on their main screen that made everyone gasp. A small shuttle was approaching from the human flagship. It wasn't a military assault craft bristling with weapons. It was clearly marked with medical symbols and had transparent sections showing supplies inside. Medical Shuttle Mercy requesting permission to dock, came a new voice over the radio. This one was softer, friendlier. We have emergency medical supplies and personnel ready to assist. The aliens looked at each other in amazement. The humans were actually sending doctors, not soldiers. Permission granted, Captain Zephyrin said slowly, still not believing what was happening. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. The airlock hissed open, and the first human stepped onto their ship. The aliens all took a step back, expecting to see a massive warrior in battle armor. Instead, they saw a woman in a clean white medical coat carrying a bag of supplies. Dr. Lisa Parker was not what they had imagined at all. She was average height with kind eyes and gentle movements. She immediately went to the nearest injured alien, a small purple creature who had been hurt when the engines exploded. "Hello there," she said softly, kneeling down beside the wounded being. "I'm Dr. Parker. Can you tell me where it hurts?" The little alien was too shocked to speak. A human was talking to him kindly, not threatening him or demanding information. Dr. Parker simply smiled and began running her medical scanner over his injuries. "Looks like you've got some internal bleeding and a few broken bones," she said. "Nothing we can't fix. This might sting a little bit." She gave him an injection, and almost immediately the alien's face relaxed as the pain went away. Other humans in medical uniforms were now moving through the ship, treating injured crew members with the same gentle care. "I don't understand," said Medical Officer Plix, watching the humans work. "They're actually helping us." Engineer Quartz Singer, a being made of living crystal who needed special atmospheric conditions to survive, mentioned to one of the human technicians that his breathing was getting difficult. "What kind of atmosphere do you need?" the technician asked immediately. "Silicon-based with trace amounts of argon," Quartz Singer replied weakly. "No problem," the human said, pulling out a portable device. "We can manufacture that right here. Give us about 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, Quartz Singer was breathing normally again, his crystal body glowing with health. The humans had not only listened to his needs but had immediately worked to fix the problem without asking for anything in return. Captain Zephyrin watched all of this happening with growing amazement. These humans were treating his crew better than most Galactic Council rescue teams would have. They weren't demanding payment or asking for political favors. They were just helping. Finally, he couldn't contain his confusion any longer. He walked up to Dr. Parker, who was bandaging a cut on THWSS's arm. "I have to ask," he said quietly. "Why are you helping us like this? What do you want from us?" Dr. Parker looked up from her work, genuinely surprised by the question. "What do we want?" "We don't want anything." "But you must want something," Captain Zephyrin insisted. "Payment, information, political agreements. Something." The human doctor smiled and went back to her medical scanner. "Captain, you sent out a distress signal asking for help. We heard it, and we came. That's what civilized beings do. Because you asked for help, she added simply. The words hit the alien captain like a physical blow. It was such a simple answer, but it changed everything he thought he knew about humans. These weren't savage monsters who conquered through violence. These were people who heard someone in trouble and simply responded. The aliens stood in stunned silence, watching the humans work with quiet efficiency and genuine care. These savage Deathworlders were treating them with more compassion and professionalism than their own species often showed each other. The rescue operation was going smoothly when the first alarm started screaming. On the bridge of the Harmony of Stars, Sensor Officer Quinn's eyes went wide with terror as he stared at his display screen. "Captain," he said, his voice shaking. "We've got incoming ships. Multiple contacts, approaching fast from the asteroid field." Captain Zephyrin felt his crystal heart sink. He knew exactly what this meant. The Veil Nebula was crawling with pirates who made their living by attacking disabled ships. They had been monitoring communication channels, waiting for exactly this kind of opportunity. "How many?" he asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. 12 ships, sir. Raider-class vessels, all armed and moving in attack formation. The human medical team on board immediately stopped what they were doing and looked up. Dr. Parker's friendly expression turned serious as she activated her communication device. "Admiral Thompson, this is Dr. Parker. We've got hostiles inbound. Multiple pirate vessels approaching our position." The response came back instantly from the flagship. "Copy that, Doctor. All medical teams, continue your work. We'll handle this." Captain Zephyrin couldn't believe what he was hearing. The humans were going to fight? For them? It didn't make any sense. The smart thing to do would be to leave immediately. The aliens weren't worth risking human lives over. He activated his ship's communication system and spoke directly to Admiral Thompson. "Admiral, you should withdraw your fleet immediately. We're grateful for your help, but you've done enough already. There's no need for you to risk your people for us." There was a brief pause, and then Admiral Thompson's voice came back over the radio. It was calm but had an edge to it that made everyone on the bridge go quiet. "Captain, I appreciate your concern for my crew. But let me make something very clear. All hands to battle stations. No one touches our rescue operation." The change in the human fleet was immediate and terrifying. The 5 massive warships that had been floating peacefully around the damaged alien vessel suddenly came alive with deadly purpose. Running lights switched from white to red. Weapon systems that had been powered down began humming with energy. The ships themselves seemed to grow larger and more menacing as armor plating shifted into combat configuration. "Look at them move," whispered Navigator Veltar, staring out the main view screen in amazement. The human ships didn't scatter or retreat. Instead, they moved with perfect coordination, like parts of a single giant machine. Within seconds, they had formed a protective wall around the Harmony of Stars. The largest ship, Admiral Thompson's flagship Defiance, positioned itself directly between the alien vessel and the approaching pirates. On the human ships, Captain Zephyrin could see weapon ports opening and massive gun turrets rotating into firing position. The aliens had heard stories about human military technology, but seeing it in person was completely different. These weren't just weapons. They were instruments of destruction that could turn entire fleets into space dust. But here was the thing that amazed the alien captain the most. Even as the human warships prepared for battle, the rescue operation never stopped. Human repair teams continued working on the Harmony of Stars engines. Medical personnel kept treating wounded aliens. Supply shuttles continued moving back and forth between ships, delivering life support equipment and emergency supplies. "I don't understand," said Engineer Koss, watching human technicians install new power coupling while their fleet prepared for war. "Why aren't they leaving? Why are they risking themselves for us?" Dr. Parker overheard the question as she worked on treating an injured crew member. She looked up with that same gentle smile she had worn since arriving. Because you're under our protection now, she said simply. And humans don't abandon people who need help. The pirate ships were getting closer now, their weapons charging and targeting systems locking onto the human fleet. But Admiral Thompson's voice came over the communication channel, steady and confident. Attention pirate vessels. You are approaching a rescue operation under the protection of Terra Fleet. Turn around immediately and leave this area, or you will be engaged and destroyed. The pirates responded with weapon fire. What happened next would become legend throughout the galaxy. The human fleet didn't just fight back. They fought with a fury and precision that defied belief. But they weren't fighting for conquest or glory. They were fighting to protect people who had asked for help. Captain Zephyrin watched in wonder as these human Deathworlders proved that their reputation for violence came from something completely different than what the galaxy had assumed. They were dangerous not because they were cruel, but because they cared too much to let others suffer when they could do something about it. The battle exploded around them like a deadly fireworks show. Pirate ships fired everything they had at the human fleet, filling space with energy beams and missiles. The human warships fired back with weapons so powerful that each shot lit up the entire nebula. But through it all, something incredible was happening that made the alien crew stare in absolute amazement. The humans never stopped working. Even as explosions rocked their ships and debris flew past their hulls, human repair teams continued fixing the harmony of stars. Sergeant Mike Davis was outside the alien ship in his spacesuit, welding new hull plates while a battle raged just a few thousand meters away. A chunk of metal from a destroyed pirate ship came spinning toward him like a bullet. It hit his hard suit with enough force to send him tumbling, but he simply grabbed onto a support beam and kept working. "Sergeant Davis," came Dr. Parker's voice over the radio, "are you okay out there? That looked like a nasty hit." "I'm fine, Doc," he replied, never stopping his welding work. "Just a little bump. This hull breach needs to be sealed before their life support fails completely." Young alien Ensign Kethera was watching through a porthole, her large eyes wide with disbelief. She had never seen anything like this. During Galactic Council rescue operations, all work stopped the moment any danger appeared. Safety protocols demanded that rescue teams withdraw to a safe distance until threats were eliminated. But these humans were different. They worked in conditions that would kill most species without even thinking twice about it. The radiation levels outside the ship were deadly. There were gravitational shears from the nebula that could tear a person apart. Pieces of destroyed ships were flying through space like shrapnel. And Sergeant Davis just kept working. "I don't understand," Kethera said to the human engineer working beside her inside the ship. "Why is he risking his life like that? Why don't you wait until the battle is over?" The human engineer, a woman named Tech Specialist Amy Rodriguez, looked up from the power conduit she was repairing. "Because your people need life support now, not after the battle. Every minute we wait, someone might die." "But he could be killed out there," Kethera insisted. Amy smiled. "Yeah, he could be. But that's the risk you take when people need help." Through the porthole, they watched as another explosion sent a wave of radiation washing over Sergeant Davis. His suit's radiation detectors started beeping frantically, warning him of dangerous exposure levels. But instead of retreating to safety, he just adjusted his welding torch and kept working. "This is crazy," whispered Engineer Koss, watching from another window. "No rational being would do this. It goes against every survival instinct." Dr. Parker overheard him and walked over. "You're right, it does go against survival instincts. But it doesn't go against human instincts." "What's the difference?" asked Captain Zephyrin. "Humans evolved on a world that tried to kill them every single day," Dr. Parker explained while checking on a patient. "But they didn't survive by running away from danger. They survived by working together, by protecting each other, by never leaving anyone behind. It's built into who we are." Outside, Sergeant Davis was now working in a radiation storm so intense that most species would have died in seconds. His suit was taking a beating from flying debris, but he never stopped. Another human floated over to help him, and then another. Soon there were 5 humans outside, all working together to save the alien ship. Young Kethera pressed her face against the porthole, watching them work with tears in her eyes. "But why?" she asked quietly. "Why risk so much for strangers?" Sergeant Davis must have heard her through the communication system, because his voice came through the speakers. He paused in his welding for just a moment. "Kid," he said, his voice warm despite the chaos around them, "where I come from, when someone sends an SOS, you answer. Doesn't matter if they're human, alien, or something in between. Doesn't matter if you've never met them before. When someone needs help, you help them. That's what makes us human." The simple words hit the alien crew like a physical blow. They had spent their entire lives believing that humans were violent monsters who conquered through brutality and cruelty. But now they were seeing the truth. Human violence wasn't about cruelty at all. It was about protection. The same fierce determination that made humans fight so hard in battle was exactly what made them risk everything to save strangers. They were dangerous because they cared too much, not because they cared too little. "They're not monsters," whispered Medical Officer Plix. "They're guardians." The battle continued to rage around them, but inside the harmony of stars, something had changed forever. The aliens finally understood what made humans so different from every other species in the galaxy. Humans didn't fight to destroy. They fought to protect. And once you were under their protection, they would literally risk everything to keep you safe. The battle was over. What remained of the pirate fleet was limping away into the darkness of space, their ships smoking and broken. Of the 12 vessels that had attacked, only 4 were still capable of flight. The others were either destroyed or drifting powerlessly, their crews either dead or begging for mercy. Admiral Jake Thompson's fleet hadn't suffered a single casualty. Captain Zephyrin stood on the bridge of the Harmony of Stars, watching the human warships reform their protective formation around his vessel. The aliens had witnessed something that would haunt their dreams for years to come. They had seen humans fight with a fury that seemed to come from the depths of hell itself. But it wasn't the fury of conquest or cruelty. It was the fury of protection. The humans had fought like beings possessed, throwing themselves into battle with no regard for their own safety. But they hadn't been fighting for territory or resources or glory. They had been fighting for the right to continue their rescue operation. Every shot they fired, every move they made, had been calculated to protect the helpless aliens they had come to save. "Engines are back online, Captain," reported Engineer Quartz Singer, his crystal body now glowing with health thanks to the atmosphere the humans had manufactured for him. "The humans have completely rebuilt our power systems. They're actually better than they were before." Dr. Parker was finishing up her treatment of the last injured crew member. She packed up her medical supplies with the same gentle efficiency she had shown from the beginning. "You're all going to be fine," she told the alien crew. "We've restocked your medical bay and left detailed instructions for any follow-up care you might need." The Harmony of Stars was now traveling toward the nearest Galactic Council station under the protection of Admiral Thompson's fleet. The 5 massive human warships surrounded them like guardian angels, their weapons still powered but no longer threatening. Captain Zephyrin sat down at his desk and activated his official recording device. As the commanding officer of a council vessel, he was required to file a detailed report about any first contact situation. But this report would be different from any that had ever been filed before. Personal log, Captain Zephyrin commanding. Official first contact report with human forces. He paused, trying to find the right words. "For generations, we have believed humans to be savage Deathworlders who conquered their hostile planet through violence and brutality. We were wrong about everything." He looked out his window at the human ships, their dark hulls still bristling with weapons that had just demolished an entire pirate fleet. "Deathworlders don't calculate rescue operations like we do," he continued. "They don't weigh costs against benefits or assess risks against rewards. When they hear someone in distress, they simply respond. We called them savage, but perhaps the most dangerous thing about humans isn't their capacity for violence. It's their refusal to abandon others in need. Young Ensign Kethera was standing nearby, listening to the captain's report. "Sir," she said quietly, "what do you think will happen when the council hears about this?" Captain Zephyrin thought for a moment. "I think everything is about to change, young one. We've spent so long being afraid of humans that we never bothered to understand them. They're not the monsters we thought they were." "What are they then?" she asked. "They're exactly what the galaxy needs," he replied. "Protectors." 3 weeks later, Admiral Jake Thompson was reviewing supply reports on the bridge of the Defiance when his communication officer looked up from her station. "Admiral, we're receiving a distress signal. Unknown species, about 6 light-years from here. Engine failure and life support critical." The bridge crew turned to look at their commander, waiting for orders. Admiral Thompson didn't hesitate for even a second. "Set course for the distress signal. All ships, prepare for rescue operations." "Sir," asked his first officer, "we don't know anything about this species. They could be hostile." Admiral Thompson smiled. "Lieutenant, someone out there needs help. That's all we need to know." The human fleet changed course immediately, their massive engines powering up as they headed toward another rescue operation. It didn't matter that they had never encountered this species before. It didn't matter that they might be walking into a trap. It didn't even matter that they were tired from their last mission and could use some rest. Someone had sent out an SOS, and humans answered SOS calls. As the Defiance jumped into hyperspace, Admiral Thompson looked out at the stars and smiled. Somewhere out there, beings he had never met were in trouble, probably scared and alone. But not for long. Help was on the way. Because that's what humans do. They hear someone calling for help, and they answer. They don't ask questions about profit or politics or risk assessment. They just come running, ready to fight whatever needs fighting and fix whatever needs fixing. The galaxy was about to learn that having humans as neighbors wasn't something to fear. It was something to celebrate. After all, when the worst happens and you're alone in the dark with nowhere else to turn, there's nothing more comforting than knowing that somewhere out there, humans heard your call for help. And they're coming.